Hey everyone, it is Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world and whatever it is you may be doing. I hope you're well and I hope you are safe as well. Thank you for joining me on the very first class for our week-long celebration of healthy treats that are nut-free, because a lot of you have been asking for nut-free treats, but these treats are also school friendly. Once again, I got a lot of people asking me to produce some treats that their kids could take to school. Now, if you're wondering, if you're outside of sort of Australia and New Zealand, and you're wondering why a nut-free treat becomes in a school-friendly treat, is there has been an ordinance in place for a couple of years now, and not in all of, I don't think it's in all of the Southern Hemisphere. I definitely know, like I said, it's in Australia and New Zealand, that kids or parents made sure that their children are not coming to school with treats or lunchbox staples that have nuts in them, due to other children who have nut allergies, potentially even life-threatening anaphylaxis, all that sort of stuff. So you asked, here I am giving you the very first class, and in this class we're doing some amazing, nut-free of course, datey oaty bars. I've named them datey oaty bars because I really love the way that sounds. Like, for no other reason, I could have called them date oat bars. I was like, nah, it's a bit boring. So I named them datey oaty bars just so that you're gonna have to say datey oaty bars, because I thought it was very cool, and what kid isn't gonna like that? Now, before we get into the recipe, just a couple of words on oats, because yes, these bars do contain oats. And if you're wondering, because I did say that they are gluten-free, if you're wondering and you're thinking to yourself, hang on, oats aren't gluten-free, yes they are. Stay watching, I will give you the information on how oats are actually gluten-free a little bit later on. But the reason why I'm using oats is because oats, they are a grain, but if you were to sort of tie together grains, they are one of the better grain for us. So one of the things about oats is they have a very low response on the glycemic index, and what that basically means is they won't spike your blood glucose or give you an insulin and a high insulin response. In fact, they will slowly release the energy that you get from consuming them, so they are wonderful for kids because they won't go on that sugar high, but they're also really good for us as well because they will help lower our cholesterol. They are really good for cardiovascular and heart health as well, so they'll help to look after your heart, and they are packed full of really good unsaturated fatty acids. So all in all, oats are pretty good things. If you've kind of been put off oats because you've thought they're gluten-free, like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Really awesome information to share on our oats and how good they are for us. Now, if you're like, don't care, don't want to add oats, don't eat oats, then the alternative here, instead of making datey oaty bars, is you're going to make date quinoa bars, because you can actually buy quinoa flakes, which is a really good substitute for oats, and quinoa is very high in protein, so not a little bit more, but quite a bit more expensive than our humble oat, but they are very high in protein. So if you're looking to really get some good protein, plant-based protein into your diet, then you might want to look at quinoa flakes. Pardon me. And the best place to look for quinoa flakes is in your health food aisle of your supermarket or in your health food store. Alright, so let's get into the recipe. Enough talky, come on down to my bench. What I have today in front of us is also, of course, just a few little ingredients here. But the first ingredient that we're going to continue to talk about is our oats. So for this recipe, and this recipe, by the way, makes between 16 to 20 bars. So this is really budget friendly as well. So firstly, you need to think about your oats. I'm just using a whole oat rather than one that is instant. So use a whole oat, and you need 250 grams of whole oats or quinoa flakes, of course. And then onto that, you're going to spread them out onto a paper-lined baking sheet, just like this. And then you're going to sprinkle over 60 grams of erythritol, which is our zero, as sugar gets sprinkled over there, and that is going to help to give us a bit of sweetness within this bar. So once you've sprinkled it, give it a bit of a massage, and then we're going to pop it into an oven set at 180 degrees Celsius, which is 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to lightly toast the oats with the erythritol for 15 minutes. But please keep an eye on it, because you don't want them obviously to burn, because then they'll be bitter. You want a nice light toast, and your house is going to smell amazing when you do that as well. It smells so incredibly good. So that's the first thing. You're going to toast off your oats. If you don't have to toast off your oats, and definitely if you're using quinoa flakes, you want to avoid this step. Just stick with quinoa flakes, and then just mix in some of 60 grams of your erythritol into your quinoa flakes. So you've lightly toasted the oats, and once they're toasted, remember 15 minutes, but keep an eye on them, because they do brown quite quickly. Keep an eye on them. And after that, you're just going to leave them to cool on the bench for about 10 minutes. So that's your first step, is we're going to deal with the oats. While your oats are toasting in that lovely oven, we're going to make I suppose it's like a syrup, but it's more like a paste. We're going to make the paste, which we're going to use to mold these bars together. So the paste that we're using today is, I am using 2 different things to go into our paste. I'm just going to put them straight into my pot. And the first one that I'm using is tahini. Now tahini is a paste made out of sesame seeds. So you want to go for ones that are unhulled, so that they've got all the goodness from the sesame seeds in there. That is going to go straight into our pot, and that amount there is 170 grams of tahini, which is about 6 ounces of tahini paste goes in there. So no sweetness, no nothing on this tahini. It's just pure sesame seeds made into a paste. And once again, you can find tahini in your health food store or in the health food aisle of your supermarket. So that's the first one that goes in. The next thing that's going to help to obviously create some sweetness, it's going to help to bind the bar together, is I'm going to be using our sweet as fiber syrup, and I want to put in 120 grams of, which is about 4.2 ounces of our sweet as fiber syrup. And of course, now that we're doing this, we have just turned this wonderful healthy dainty oaty bar into a prebiotic, so really good for the gut health. And because everything that we're doing here is free from refined sugar, there's no honey, there's no maple, there's no rice malt syrup, all that sort of stuff, we are making sure that we're keeping this bar really low in GI, so it's not going to spike our kids' blood glucose and give them a sugar high response, which is what we want to avoid, especially if we're sending them up to school. We don't want them to be on a sugar high. Think of the teachers. They don't need that. So now that that's together, this goes onto the cooktop. I'm going to set the cooktop on medium and just let that kind of mix together and heat. You need to give it a bit of a stir, because obviously your tahini, especially if you're doing this in a cold part of the world, might look like that. A big clump, and that's not ideal. So what we kind of want to do, here we go. What we want to do is just give it a bit of a stir and make sure that we break it up. You don't have to stir constantly, just every now and then we're going to give it a bit of a stir. So while that's just kind of ticking over nice and gently, I'm going to put the rest of the ingredients together. So get yourself a nice big mixing bowl, and the first thing you want to do is take your toasted oats, once they've cooled down of course, and put them into the bowl. This is why baking paper is good, right? You get to put it in without making a mess. Yes, we have a question.
Laura has asked, quinoa flakes different to black quinoa?
Laura has asked, is quinoa flakes different to, I'm assuming you just mean the whole quinoa seed, Laura? Yes, they are. Quinoa flakes look like this. So they kind of look like porridge, and they are literally flakes, whereas whole quinoa is literally the seed. So most definitely they are completely different, as they are processed differently. So what you're looking for is not whole quinoa, you're looking for quinoa flakes. So they look like flakes or they look like oats. Great question there, by the way. Quinoa, the one that you're referring to, is pretty much just the seed. It's had no processing done to it. This has had a process done that turns it into wonderful flakes. And people who don't want to consume oats, maybe they're allergic to it, people who don't want to consume oats, they can actually make a porridge out of quinoa flakes, just like you would do oats. But you guys all know my almond porridge, right? Way tastier. Let's be honest here, almond porridge is the best. Right, I'm just stirring, as you can see. This is coming together really nicely. Just giving it a bit of a stir, making sure we don't burn, making sure we don't stick. Now, actually, it's a good time to talk a little bit more about oats as well. I'm just going to bring you up here, just so... Oh no, you can stay there because I can keep on putting stuff in. So when it comes to our oats, I did mention that they are gluten-free. I often get asked, in fact, people just tell me that there is gluten in oats, and how could I call something that has oats in it gluten-free, like if I do a recipe? Well, here are the actual scientific facts. Oats contain no gluten. In fact, there was a study published in 2017 in the Food Research International Journal, and they found, based on findings from numerous long-term studies, that oats do not contain gluten, and they are safe for even people with celiac disease, which is a severe autoimmune condition where they are very highly gluten intolerant. So oats do not contain gluten, but the problem lies not in the oat itself. This doesn't contain gluten. The problem lies in how the oats are processed. So if the oats are processed in a facility that also processes wheat, barley or rye products, which all have gluten, there is the potential of cross-contamination from the gluten products to our oats. So for celiacs, they can safely consume oats because they have no gluten, provided the brand that they use, it's safely produced in a facility that does not produce other gluten products. So that is the science behind oats. There is no gluten in oats. And for the rest of us, because 99% of the population are not celiacs. Yeah? There is only a small part of the population that are that intolerant towards gluten, and those are our celiacs who have this autoimmune disease. The rest of us, we can happily have our oats and not have to worry about having any gluten sensitivity issues. So there you go. Thought that would interest you. All right, what you can see now is I literally have a big dollop of a paste. I'm going to turn that off now. That's as far as I want to take it, just like that. And I'm just going to sit this aside and allow it to cool. Thank you for indulging my oat chat, because it's really important that we understand exactly what our food is and understand that when I put oats in a recipe, they are gluten-free. But for celiacs, you guys know, right? When you're a celiac, you know that you need to find oats that can safely claim on the packaging have not been produced in a facility that actually deals with other gluten products like wheat, barley and rye. Alright, so our oats are in there, our little mixture is cooling behind me. Let's start thinking about put some other delicious stuff in here to make these bars really gorgeous. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to put in some pumpkin seeds, also known as papita seeds, if you're wondering what they are. Gorgeous, lovely flavour. These are just going in untoasted, and I'm going to be putting in 40 grams of pumpkin seeds. Now, if you don't want to use pumpkin seeds, feel free to use any other type of seed. Just make sure you put in that 40 grams, which is just under 1.5 ounces. Go in. Doesn't have to be pumpkin seeds. But if you want to use pumpkin, I think they're delicious. I'm also going to add in some sunflower seeds, once again untoasted. Same amount. We're going with 40 grams, which is just under 1.5 ounces of sunflower seeds go in there. A little bit more for luck. Good. Yeah, 80 grams, there we go. 40 grams, there we go. The other type of seed that I'm going to be adding in, once again, add them in or not, is one of my favorites, which is chia seeds. Chia seeds are really, really high in fiber for a start. They're really good at keeping our gut clean and healthy, high in protein, and they will also help us to feel fuller longer. So they're pretty awesome little seeds. And the chia seeds in here, I have 20 grams, but what I actually did is I soaked them. You can kind of see. I soaked 20 grams of chia seeds, which is about a seventh of an ounce of chia seeds. I soaked that in 20 mils of water. So equal quantities, 20 grams to 20 mils of water, which is about a seventh of an ounce. Allow that to sit, and what then happens is it comes really, really thick. Look at that. which is perfect. That is going in as well. Just like that. So now we have added wonderful chia seeds. Like I said, I just love these things so much. I try and consume at least 2 tablespoons of chia seeds in something a day. I don't just eat chia seeds. I will consume them in a bar like this. Or I always have my almond porridge, which means that I'm getting chia seeds and almonds and all those wonderful things as well. So give it a bit of a stir. Give it a bit of a stir. And as I was saying, you decide what seeds go in, you know, depending on what you like. I've given you my 3 favorite, but there's also hemp seeds as well. There's also flax seeds or linseeds. Like seriously, you guys, by all means, play around with this recipe and add what you like, or even add what you've got. As long as you've got those quantities, you're good. So give it a bit of a stir, just kind of mixing it through. Don't have to be too concerned if you've got lumps of chia seeds. I'll show you why in a second. And then think about the type of fruit you're going to be adding. Now I am adding dried dates, and the reason why I'm adding dates is because they do have quite a bit of sweetness in them, and if you're making these for kids, they do definitely feel the need to have a bit of sweetness. But you could use any dry fruit you want. Like you could use, you know, figs, especially if it's for an adult and you like something that's a little bit more mature for the palate. I find that figs are really nice. But you could do things like dried apricots, you could do raisins, you could do sultanas. Once again, completely up to you. But dates do have a great sweetness to them, hence why I'm using them. So 130 grams of dried dates, or as I said, whatever dried fruit that you choose, you know, cranberries, blueberries, you name it. Just make sure that whatever fruit that you choose has no added sugar, because these are sweet enough on their own. They do not need added sugar, and it breaks my heart every single time I see fruit that has dried fruit that has had added sugar to it. It is totally unnecessary, as you guys know. So those are going into my little mixer, because I'm going to do the I'm not going to say the lazy person's chopping, but yeah. I mean, why chop when you can't, when you don't have to, right? So this doesn't take, you know, this is easy. This is easy. Come on, there we go. All right, into our blender, 130 grams, which is about 4.5 ounces of our fruit of choice. Make short work of the chopping. Ta-da! Yeah, easy, right? Why would you chop when you don't have to? You've got these lovely little machines that can take the hard work away from us. Okay, so that goes directly into our mixing bowl. Lovely. I mean, I quite like the taste of dates, I have to be honest with you. I grew up not liking them because they were the only dried fruit, apart from sultanas, which I also could not stand. I like raisins though, go figure. So yeah, we always had dates in the house, and we always had sultanas in the house, and so I was kind of, you know, like, ooh, how boring. But now as I've grown up, I really appreciate just how complex a dried date is, and it's just such a nice way to add that little bit of sweetness, you know, to what's going to be quite a delicious datey oaty bar. All right, so now that that's in there, we also want to think about adding in our blob. And it is a blob. So imagine we're going to be putting this into here, and your next thought is, how are you possibly going to be able to mix that all through? Well, I do have a technique. Do not worry, and it all does come down to technique about how we move forward here. So using a plastic spatula, you want to extract all of that paste from your pot. Do not waste any. I'm going to use my spoon just to help me a little bit, because it's really, really thin. All right, don't waste any. You want to get it all out there. And then you need to think about, where are they? Putting on some gloves and getting stuck in. This is what I have discovered the best, and chances are the only way that you're going to really be able to get everything combined and mixed in, is get in there with your hands. Gloves are definitely better with this, otherwise you're just going to get that paste kind of stuck all over your fingers. And you do just want to get in there and just start mixing. Just start kind of going for it, hence why we allowed the oats to cool, and hence why we also allowed the paste to cool before we actually started mixing, because You don't want to be doing it and burning your fingers at all. So just let things cool down. Not too much with the paste though, because the paste still needs to be pliable. You still need to be able to work it into what has now become like a big ball of, it's like one really huge dainty oat ball. But you know, just keep on going. Take your time here, because as you're doing this and you're mixing and you're stirring and almost, you know, kind of like a fold, as you continue to get more and more of the mixture attached to the sticky part, which is our paste. And of course, as you're doing this as well, remember our chia seeds, they were kind of in a bit of a ball too. And this is going to help to distribute your chia seeds as well. So this is a really nice things to get the kids involved with, if you want to. I always like sort of involving kids where possible. My kids are a bit old now. They kind of look at me like, oh, just let me eat it. The days of them wanting to help in the kitchen, sadly, have gone. So, all right, so we've got quite a bit of stuff in there. And now, if you wanted to, and you really wanted to, the other thing this does is, by the way, is it continues to break up the dates, which is cool as well. So now at this point, if you wanted to, and you wanted to spoil the eater, whether that eater be you or whether it be the kids, as you can think about adding some sugar-free chocolate to the mix as well. I use a chocolate that is not just sugar-free, but it's also dairy-free. In fact, this chocolate is vegan. There's no gluten in it, and I have added in there 30 grams of dark chocolate chips to the mix. That's up to you whether you want to add the chocolate, because to be completely frank, I find that even without the chocolate, these taste amazing. But you know, if you just want to make it a little bit more special, and 30 grams is not too much, 30 grams, 1 ounce of a really nice dark sugar-free, like I said, I use a vegan, which is dairy-free and gluten-free chocolate, then by all means go for it. And this is the other reason, especially if you are adding chocolate, you need to make sure that this is cool before you add the chocolate, otherwise they're going to melt. Just a little tip there. All right, so that's done. We're going to take up our little sandwich tin that we have here. I'm not sure on the measurements. I will put the measurements in the recipe, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys tomorrow, a printed PDF version if you would like one. Take your slice. Don't have to put anything in here. I haven't obviously lined it with paper. I haven't greased it at all. Not necessary. Do not need to do this. And this, once again, is you got to show the bar who's boss, and you're the boss. So you're going to be pushing it into the tray. Like it, you know, it will require a little bit of elbow grease, which is fantastic, because, you know, as we continue to sit here, well, not sit here because we're actually doing stuff, that paste will continue to firm up, which is exactly what it needs to do. So what you might find is helpful, and literally anytime I get to use my yellow hammer, I'm happy. This is my Thor hammer. It's actually used to open coconuts, but guess what else it does? Because it's a little mallet. It's a little soft. Well, it's hard, but that's a nice little mallet, and it's really, really good at doing this, I have discovered. And like I said to you guys, any opportunity where I get to use my Thor hammer, I'm happy. And so you just want to push. Even if you don't have a Thor hammer, you can get a glass, because it's got a nice, you know, flat base, and just get in there with your fingers or your hammer, your Thor hammer, and even it out, squish it down. And what you're doing is you're compressing this wonderful mixture, which is going to then, of course, give you the ability to slice it into really firm and really even bars that, yes, will last in the lunchbox that you take to the office, or it'll last in the lunchbox if it's going with kids as well. So really, really awesome. So now that you've done that, it's nice and even. You've used your hammer if you've got one. We'll just use it one more time, just because, you know, like I said, any opportunity I get to use a hammer, I'm going to do it. Right, and now this can then go into the fridge, and it will, I mean, it's already preset as you can see, but we just want to firm it up just that little bit more. So I will then pop that in the fridge, and that will stay in the fridge for about half an hour just to firm up completely before it's time to chop. Oh, I've got a few chocolate, got to add the chocolate. I didn't realize there's a bit of chocolate in there. gosh, you don't want to miss out on that. Here's one as well. And she gets to use her hammer. See why hammers are good? Hammers are great. Alright, okay. Half an hour in the fridge to firm up completely. And after that half an hour time is done, what then you have is you now have a literal box load of the most awesome, check it out, the most awesome sliced bars. Let me get one out here. Oh, check it out, look at that. Isn't that fantastic? Really, like I said, really, really firm. So they do travel really, really well. And of course, there's no gluten, there's no sugar, there's no dairy, there's no egg, and these are really quite fabulous. So these are the bars you can slice. I mean, like I said, out of that tray that I was doing, I got 16 comfortably, but you could possibly even get 20 bars out of that one recipe. And if you do the math, if you were to do the math on, on these particular bars here compared with buying them, which is going to have all the sugar and preservatives and artificial this and that and the other, you make these yourself and you get 20 out of them. That is a really budget-friendly recipe as well. So there you go. I hope you try these. Like, seriously, they are so fantastic. They will last, by the way, for such a long time. You can store them in the fridge, or you can just store them in an airtight container in your pantry. They'll last well over a week. In the fridge, you can double that time for a couple of weeks. How do they taste? Oh, it's so chewy. They're marvelous. Like, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous recipe. I hope you try your own. Let me know too if you try any different types of fruit and seed combinations. I would love to see what you guys come up with. Share it with us on our page, Bridget's, in our private group, Bridget's Healthy Kitchen Family. Come join that group if you're not already a member. Love to see you, and I would love to see, yummy, your gorgeous creations as well. Enjoy this recipe. I've got lots of recipes coming to you guys this week to celebrate our nut-free, school-friendly treats. I will see you very soon back here in the kitchen for another episode in a couple more days. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Be well. Bye.